All right, all right, all right. What's going on? How we doing? How we doing? It is your boy Big J all day, aka the Mighty Big J, and this is another episode of the Hype Show. If this is your first time, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like and comment on this video. And if you are not new to the channel, thank you so much again for joining me for another episode. Tonight we're going to preview the Thursday night football matchup for Week 8 between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Buffalo Bills. That game will be taking place at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. That'll be on Prime Video. If you live in the Tampa Bay or Buffalo market, that game will be available for you on your local network, but typically it's on Prime Video if you're out of market. We're also going to talk a little bit about the World Series. The World Series is set, and Game 1 is tomorrow night on Fox, and that World Series this year will be between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Tampa Bay Rangers, the Texas Rangers. Sorry about that. The Arizona Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers. This will be Arizona's second World Series appearance. Their first and only appearance was in 2001. And for the Texas Rangers, this will be their third World Series appearance. They went to the World Series in back-to-back years in 2010 and 2011, but unfortunately they lost both of those to the San Francisco Giants in 2010 and the St. Louis Cardinals in 2011 in back-to-back years. So this is their third appearance. So a World Series matchup between two teams that haven't been there in a while, basically. So that should be exciting. We're also going to talk a little bit and roll off the games for the Week 8 schedule for the rest of the NFL schedule. We're also going to talk about there's two games taking place here tonight as well. The NBA regular season got started here, and the games that'll be taking place tonight here are going to be between the Phoenix Suns and Los Angeles Lakers and the Philadelphia 76ers and Milwaukee Bucks. Each of those teams are making their season debut tonight. That game is actually taking place in about 45 minutes, the Sixers and Bucks, and that'll be at 7:30 Eastern on TNT. And then the Suns-Lakers game will be right after that at 10 p.m. Eastern. So those are the two games for the NBA. As far as the Thursday night game, again, that's taking place here at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to visit the Buffalo Bills. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-3 after their loss to Atlanta this past Sunday. And the Buffalo Bills fell to 4-3 after their loss to the New England Patriots this past Sunday. So each team is coming off of a loss and is looking to get a win here. They have Buffalo favored by 10 points. The game is at home for them. They aren't a bad team at home at all, and they should get the win. But each of these offenses have been pretty sluggish the past couple of games or so. Tampa Bay, they haven't looked good since their bye week. They were 3-1 going into their bye week in Week 5, and they just haven't looked like a good team in those 2 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see who does what, because Buffalo is not only sluggish on offense, but they have a lot of injuries on defense as well, and they're going to have guys step up. They're missing 3 key defensive starters on that side of the ball, and with Tampa on their end, they kind of have to figure out what they're doing on offense, because they've again lost 2 straight since their bye week. So this game is just one of those situations where it's not a must-win, but it'll help get each team going back in the right direction. I'm expecting Buffalo to win this game, but Tampa Bay, I think they're going to be fighting to win this game themselves. They're not going to lay down by any means. I don't really expect a blowout, and I'd be kind of surprised if it got away too early. The way that it could be a situation where it gets away too early is if it's a situation where Tampa Bay turns the ball over, or they just go 3 and out way too many times. In Buffalo's last 3 games, they've outscored their opponent 30-10 in the first half, but they outscore their opponents 52-30 in the second half, which means they're scoring more points, but they're also giving up more points as well. The thing about that is this here. Buffalo, they can't lose this game because they still want to keep pace with Miami. They're just a game out right now, and then Miami plays on Sunday. So a loss to them would actually put them further behind Miami without Miami even playing. So they got to win this football game. Tampa, on the other hand, their situation is not quite as dire, because outside of Carolina, that there's no clear-cut winner. Carolina is not going to win this division, and they're going to be picking high in the draft. But with Atlanta, Tampa, New Orleans, it's kind of hard to say who's going to be doing what. as far as I'm concerned, looking at this game here, I just kind of don't see a reason why Buffalo loses this game unless they turn the ball over a lot. Josh Allen can have those games where he turns the ball over a lot. And on the flip side, that's kind of what's cost the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Baker Mayfield being not as consistent as he was prior to the bye week. So give me the Bills to win this game here. And looking ahead to the rest of their schedule after tonight here, they'll be hosting this. They'll be actually at the Cincinnati Bengals for Sunday Night Football, November the 5th, 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Then they host the Denver Broncos for Monday Night Football, November 13th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ABC. The following week, they host the Jets November 19th at 4:25 p.m. Eastern at CBS before traveling to Philly the following week, November 6th or 26th, to face the Eagles. 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. They have their bye week after those 5 games, this 5-game stretch here. So Tampa Bay, as I said, I expect them to win tonight. At Cincinnati is going to be very interesting here. We'll have to see how Cincinnati looks this weekend. And plus with them hosting Buffalo, that's going to be an interesting environment. I don't see the Denver Broncos winning that game the following week because they not only have to go to Buffalo, but their defense is near the bottom in almost everything. So I think Buffalo will win that game unless something major, catastrophic happens to key players. But even then, Denver's just not a good football team. With the Jets, that's a divisional matchup, so that's going to be a dogfight regardless. And the Jets have shown a lot of fight so far. We'll have to see how they look coming off of their bye week coming into this weekend coming up. But they definitely look good going into the bye week. They won their last 2 games to get themselves back to a 500 team. So that's going to be a dogfight. At Philadelphia is going to be very interesting too. That has a lot of riding on it because I honestly think that Buffalo, if they want to prove that they're really a great football team or in that echelon of deserving to be talked about, they got to beat a team like Philadelphia. The Cincinnati and Philadelphia games are pretty important over their next 5 games or so here, especially heading into that bye week because they got Kansas City waiting on the other side of that bye week. So for Buffalo tonight, if they lose tonight, that's really going to put a damper on things, as I said, not only in the division, but in the conference as well, because then you'll be talking about wild card, and there's only 3 of those to go around in each conference. So I like Buffalo to win tonight here. And looking at Tampa, looking at their haul as far as what they're going to be doing over the course of the next 4 games after tonight, they travel to Houston November the 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they're back home against the Tennessee Titans, 1 p.m. Eastern, November the 12th on CBS. The next 2 games after that are road games. They're at San Francisco, November 19th, 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Then they're at the Indianapolis Colts, November 26th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. So, as I said, Tampa's already had their bye week, so they have games every week here on out through the end of the season, week 18. So that's one thing about bye weeks. As I mentioned, I may have mentioned this in an earlier broadcast. As a football player, I wouldn't want my bye week too early, but I also wouldn't want it too late. I wouldn't want it to be a situation where it's so far in the season I'm already beat up enough that it won't matter. And at the same time, I wouldn't want it to be a situation where I don't feel beat up enough, if that makes sense. Because football is a tough sport regardless. And so the bye week timing to me is very important. And with them having had to play their 4 games prior to their bye week, that means they're going to have a stretch of 13 straight games. So they're going to lose guys. That's just the natural attrition of the game. So for Tampa Bay, since they've already had their bye week, it's going to be very tough to see how they can get things going on a consistent basis, especially with guys out. And especially with the next 5 games starting tonight being on the road. That's going to be key. They've already had 4 home games. So they've only got 5 home games left for the rest of the year. Actually 4. Or they only have 4 home games left for the rest of the season. They're going to be on the road a lot starting tonight. So we'll just have to see how that goes here. And with them in the division having with Atlanta beating them head-to-head and having that half game up, they're kind of already in the hole. So losing this game tonight will put them a full game back without the tiebreaker to Atlanta, with Atlanta having that tiebreaker. So if they want to stay on pace, they need to win tonight, especially with them having a stretch of, like I said, 14 or 13 straight games after the bye week. So we'll just have to see what happens after this here. But looking at the rest of the schedule for this coming NFL week, let's go ahead and just list off all the games that are coming up here following tonight. The games coming up here on Sunday, you'll have these are going to be the 1 p.m. Eastern games we're going to read off here. You'll have the Jaguars traveling to visit the Steelers. That game is taking place at Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh. The Los Angeles Rams will be traveling to visit the Dallas Cowboys. That game is taking place at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. The Minnesota Vikings are traveling to visit the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. The Atlanta Falcons are traveling to visit the Tennessee Titans at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. The New Orleans Saints are traveling to visit the Indianapolis Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. The New Orleans Patriots will be traveling to visit their AFC East foe, the Miami Dolphins, at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. The Jets and Giants face off at East MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Each of those teams play in that stadium. So, again, this is a home game in theory for the Giants, but for the Jets, it's the stadium they play in. So it's a very familiar territory. The Eagles are traveling to visit the Washington Commanders in an NFC East showdown. And lastly, looks like the Houston Texans are traveling to visit the Carolina Panthers. And also the last game I got to mention actually is the Jacksonville Jaguars are traveling. Actually, I just mentioned that one, sorry. But yeah, that's the last game for the 1 p.m. games is the Texans traveling to visit the Panthers. The afternoon slate, looking at the schedule here, the Kansas City Chiefs will be traveling to visit the Denver Broncos. That game is taking place at 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to visit the San Francisco 49ers. That game is also taking place at 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. The Baltimore Ravens are traveling to visit the Arizona Cardinals, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. And then the Cleveland Browns are actually traveling to visit the Seattle Seahawks. That starts a little earlier. That's at 4:05 p.m. Eastern at Lumen Field in Seattle. The Sunday night football matchup is going to be the Chicago Bears traveling to visit the Los Angeles Chargers at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC, SoFi Stadium. And the Monday night football matchup is the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to visit the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. That game is taking place at 8:15 p.m. Eastern, Monday, October 30th on ABC. There are actually no teams on a bye week this week, interestingly enough. We had teams coming off of a bye week last week, but there's no bye weeks this week. All 32 teams are playing this week starting tonight. And I think they typically have bye weeks starting consistently each week from week 5 through week 14. But the reason why I think that they're doing that is because when you have the World Series getting started and you have the NBA and NHL starting their regular seasons within the last couple of weeks here, you want to keep more eyes on the NFL. And I think that might be why they're doing that. I'm not sure, this is purely speculation, but they typically don't have all their teams playing without a bye week in the middle of the season. There's usually a couple of teams on bye. So that's pretty interesting that they're doing that. But yeah, everybody's playing this weekend. So it just kind of depends on who your team is and what time they're playing and things of that nature. But again, the game tonight, Buccaneers at Bills, that'll be taking place 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime Video. So if you have Prime Video or if you live in those local markets, that's where you're going to be going to check that out here. Switching gears to baseball here, we're going to talk about the game taking place tomorrow night. Again, the World Series is set and it's taking place tomorrow night starting at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. The Arizona Diamondbacks will be taking on the Texas Rangers. This will be a first-time championship for the Texas Rangers if they can get this done. Or if the Diamondbacks get it done, they'll be 2-0 as a team in the World Series after winning the 0-1 World Series over the Yankees. So very interesting World Series here. A lot of the teams that were picked to go didn't make it. Interesting enough, last year's World Series was the Houston Astros and the Philadelphia Phillies. And those were the teams that were respectively eliminated by these teams. The Rangers took out the Astros in 7, and the Diamondbacks took out the Philadelphia Phillies in 7. So very interesting here. The teams from last year's World Series fell just around short. But me personally, this one's a toss-up because each team is just hot, getting hot at the right time. And that's kind of how baseball is here. You typically see the team that gets hot at the right time winning it. And that's what we're seeing here. The teams that were the best were the Braves, the Dodgers, the Orioles were amazing. They won over 100 games this year. Teams like that, those were the teams that were the best. But each of these teams were wild cards, the Diamondbacks and Rangers. Neither one of these teams won their division. The Dodgers won the NL West and the American League West. The Rangers did have the same record as Houston, but Houston won because of the tiebreaker of the head-to-head matchup of winning more games. So that was the only reason why Houston won that division, and they had to win a lot of games at the end to catch up to Texas because it was a 3-horse race for a long time. It was Houston, Texas, and Seattle for a long time. Seattle kind of fell off at the end, and they fell just short of a wild card spot, but the top of the division was still tied anyway, but it had to go down to tiebreaker. So, again, this World Series is a toss-up here. It's going to be very interesting to see who does what here. For the home run leaders for each team here, Adolis Garcia, he had 39 home runs and 107 RBI. and he's been a monster through these playoffs here. He had 4 home runs in the ALCS against the Houston Astros, and he actually hit 2 home runs in Game 7 to give them the victory. So he was fantastic here. He led the team in home runs and runs batted in. Corey Seager led the team with a 327 batting average. As far as the Arizona Diamondbacks here, Christian Walker, he led the way with 33 home runs and 103 RBI. So he led this team in home runs and RBI. And Corbin Carroll, the young 23-year-old, he led the team with 208, with a batting average, of 285. Like I said, this series is kind of a toss-up here, and whoever wins this series is the team that truly earned it. Because, like I said, nobody picked Texas or Arizona to get to this World Series. Even with all the money that Texas spent in the previous offseason to get players like Marcus Semien over from the A's, to bring in Corey Seager, who came over from the Dodgers, spending all those money on those guys like that, people in the offseason said, oh, they can do something with this, but they wouldn't outright pick them because of how they were the previous years. So the interesting thing about this is that the Diamondbacks, they're in a division with the Dodgers. They're in a division with the Padres. The Padres were the team that spent the 3rd most money in all of baseball, and they were actually in the NLCS last year against Philadelphia. So those were the 2 teams that people were picking to go far as that division. So not a lot of people pick the Diamondbacks. They have a very young team. They have a lot of guys that are just kind of scrappy players from different markets. Ketel Marte, their second baseman, he was kind of the only guy that I knew. And then, of course, Evan Longoria at third base. He's their veteran. He's been around for a while, playing with the Tampa Bay Rays and with the San Francisco Giants, winning a championship with them. So this World Series, like I said, is going to come down to the team that actually just earns it and plays the best baseball, because I don't see either team as a favorite by any means. I don't see either team as the team that's going to jump out and take it, or a team that's going to get swept. I'd be surprised if there was a sweep in this series. Like I said, it's going to come down to pitching, timely hitting, and then just the best plays. So that's kind of how that goes for that. I'll have an update for you. If the World Series is still going next Thursday, I'll have an update. The World Series moves pretty quick, typically speaking here, because like I said, Game 1 is taking place tomorrow night. Game 1 is going to be at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. And then the same thing for Game 2. Game 2 will be taking place on Saturday. So Games 1 and 2 will be taking place on Friday, Saturday. Game 3 will be on Monday, October 30th at Chase Field back in Phoenix, Arizona. And Game 4 as well on October 31st on Halloween. That game will be also taking place at Chase Field, Phoenix, Arizona as well. So we'll be to Game 5 by Wednesday if Game 5 is necessary. And if the World Series is still going, I'll be talking about that with you on Thursday. And if it's over by then, I'll be talking about it with you either way here. But we'll definitely check in on that one and just kind of let you know how things are going here. But October baseball, it's that time. It's just the final 2 teams here, and that's going to happen here. But yeah, like I said, the teams that I picked to get to the World Series they just didn't get there, because it's about the hottest team typically, not the best team. The best teams they have great regular seasons, but they just don't get quite as far as they used to. At least not nowadays. There's a lot of parity in baseball. So Diamondbacks and Rangers, get ready for that. Going back to the NBA here, that's what we're going to talk about here. I mentioned the games earlier a bit tonight, but again, tonight the game will start taking place at 7:30 Eastern, so about a half hour or so here on TNT. The 76ers are traveling to face the Milwaukee Bucks. That game is taking place in Milwaukee at Fiserv Forum. James Harden is not going to be playing in this game. He's out. He finally went back to practice yesterday, but he's not available for tonight's game. And actually, the NBA announced that they're investigating this because he's going to be out for a national game. This has a lot to do with the rest rules that were put in place. And whenever you have marquee players affecting big market games or national games like this, they're going to start looking into this, and teams could possibly get fined for stuff like this. So this James Harden saga is actually starting to cost them, and they just got the season started. They're just getting started tonight. So that's kind of rough here, but we'll have to see if that does have any effect on anything here with them not playing tonight here. As far as Milwaukee, this is going to be the regular season debut for Damian Lillard making his debut for the team and seeing what's going on with that chemistry. Of course, you have Drew Holiday not being with the team anymore. Grayson Allen was part of the trade that got Damian from Portland. He's now with the Phoenix Suns. So there's going to be some changes on this team here, but I definitely am excited to see what happens with this team here. Giannis also signed a 3-year, $186 million extension a few days ago. So that's on average of $62 million a year. A lot of money, but he's committed to staying with this team here and seeing if he can get another championship out of the deal. So looking forward to that game here tonight. And then the game following that, after that here, again with the Milwaukee Bucks and Sixers, the game taking place after that, the Phoenix Suns at 1-0 will be traveling to visit the Lakers at 0-1, coming off their loss against the Nuggets. That game is taking place at 10 p.m. Eastern on TNT, following that Sixers-Bucks game at Crypto.com Arena. I still accidentally call it the Staples Center, but that's the name it's been over the past year or so. The Suns, to me, they're not going to have Devin Booker tonight, who's going to be out, and Bradley Beal's also out with the back issue. He didn't play in the opener against the Warriors, even though they got the win. So that's interesting. I hope that isn't something that's long term that'll affect this team here. As far as the Lakers go, it looks like they're good to go here. The only player that's going to be out is Jared Vanderbilt. He's going to be out, and he missed the previous game against the Nuggets as well. So not a huge deal, but for the Suns, for their part, that's just going to put more on Kevin Durant, and that's just not ideal. When coming into this season, you wanted all your weapons available to you, and so if Phoenix gets off to a rough start, that could set the tone. The thing about basketball is the season is so long, though. There's just so many games, so I'm not too worried, especially with the Suns already winning. I'm not too worried if I'm a Suns fan or anything like that. But the Lakers, if they start out 0-2, people are still going to have questions about this team, even though there's 80 games left. So that's just the nature of how things are with pundits and fans and things of that nature. But unlike football, 0-2 isn't like a big chunk of your schedule, because 0-2 in football is about 12% of your schedule. Whereas in the NBA, it's less than 2%. It's like 3% of your schedule. So this game is just going to be exciting to watch as far as seeing what the potential of this teams could be, but I just don't forecast this as anything. The Nuggets look really wonderful, and I expect them to be in the mix, and we'll talk about more about them as the season wears on and as these games keep going. But if you're a Suns or Lakers fan, I wouldn't be worried. It's very early, so we'll just kind of have to see how that shakes out here. And before we get out of here tonight, here again, one thing I want to mention here, we're going to talk about the Thursday episode is always going to be abbreviated, and we're going to spend more time as the season rolls on talking about the NBA. Again, we're going to talk about the World Series next week, and that'll probably be the last baseball story or segment that we do. But going forward, we're going to talk more about basketball and also try to incorporate a little bit of the NHL here, with the NHL kicking off as well here, because the NHL, they started a few weeks back here, and the games are kind of in the mix here already. The Frozen Frenzy took place a couple of days ago where every team played, and I think that was a big thing for hockey. That's kind of like what the NFL is doing this weekend, where every team has a game starting tonight. So but lots of hockey. October is a great month for hockey. I think my least favorite month for hockey is probably July, because the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Final are done. NFL hasn't kicked off preseason even yet. Guys are still in camp. And you really just have baseball. If you're a baseball fan, that's fine. You're loving that. But you have like baseball, golf, tennis, racing, things of that nature. So July is not quite as exciting, but October is the most fun as far as sports for me, because all four major sports still have something going. Plus, you have the other sports on the back end that are doing what they do, like college football, college basketball will be starting up here shortly. So exciting times. But yeah, typically the Thursday broadcast is going to be the shorter broadcast, and I'll have more for you on Sundays and Tuesdays. So yeah, that's going to pretty much wrap up things here for this episode, a very short episode. I'll have a final for you as far as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Buffalo Bills game on Sunday, and we'll go over to the stats on that. And now, again, I'll go over my predictions for the rest of the Week 8 schedule. And then, like I said, going forward on Thursdays is going to kind of be more of our ancillary episode with like more NBA coverage, more NHL coverage, things of that nature. So thank you again for joining this broadcast here. Again, a short broadcast here, but I'll have more for you on Sunday. We'll go over the entire NFL schedule, the results of tonight, and the games on Sunday and Monday. And then if we have any results for the World Series, I'll kind of touch on that a little bit for you as well here. But thank you so much for joining me for another episode of The Hype Show. Appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like, and comment on this video. And if you're not new, thank you again for your viewership. I truly appreciate it. This is The Hype Show. Thank you so much, and you have a good rest of your week. Thank you. We'll talk on Sunday. Appreciate it.